everybody, welcome to AiDIY. AiDIY.tech is the website. Are we inching closer to Tony Stark's world where we have a suit of armor around the world and that's protecting us, and the use of police drones and different military drones as a suit of armor around the world? Is that future almost here? Well, let's go ahead and address that right after this. Okay, welcome back everybody. The basis of this story is going to be a book I read by either Seth Godin or I think Yusuf Noah. The reason I said that, I actually know it's Yusuf Noah's Brief History of Tomorrow, but I want you to read both of those authors because they're awesome and they sort of form a good foundation. You can come back later and thank me for that. But the reason I wanted to bring up Yuval Noah is he formed the foundation years ago for AI and ethics that I sort of followed through to today, and way before I sort of got into AI at all, it really sort of blew my mind. So it goes something like this, right? It's sort of the trolley experiment. And if you don't understand the trolley experiment, read Michael Schur's How to Be Perfect, which is a really good tongue-in-cheek guide to moral philosophy, so you don't have to take 20 years of moral philosophy majors and university and things. It does all the highlights, and it explains the trolley experiment pretty well, or the trolley dilemma pretty well. And the trolley dilemma goes something like this. You're a trolley driver, a tram driver. It's going down a track. It's about to split into two parts. That part has 3 or 5 people on it, and that part has 1. You have to make a decision. You pull the lever and it's going to go one way. And obviously people say, well, I want to save the 3 people and take out the 1 because I have to. For some reason you have to, right? But then you modify the experiment any sort of way and you see where the dilemma sort of happens. And you know, this person, the one person, all of a sudden you notice that she's pregnant and her 5 other kids are just off the tracks, not going to be hit. And also you notice that she's a young mother. She's maybe 26 years old. And you look at the other one, and the ones that you're going to hit are all elderly, and maybe you have one middle-aged nurse that's looking at them. They're all in their 90s. What do you do? And you can modify it that way and go on, and it just becomes not that simple. And where that Brief History of Tomorrow book came into play when he was talking about AI a lot was in the case of autonomous car, right? So you're in this car, it has its own AI brain, it's driving along, and for some reason, and you don't know why, you just have to think about this is the way it is, the car decides that it's going into a skid in an accident it can't come out of, and it's either gonna flatten somebody on the sidewalk against the wall, or it's gonna wrap the driver around a pole. It's gonna kill either one of those 2 people. Now the AI itself has to make that decision, and what really came into play for me was who gets to make that decision. And when you really start to think about it, it really spins your mind out, right? Like when you're in the trolley experiment, a person at the last second has to pull the lever, and that's the decision they lived with. When you program an algorithm into AI, you make that decision, somebody makes that decision well and truly ahead of time. And the question that popped my brain was, who gets to make that decision? And when you really think about that, that's where it's another ethical problem that happens in the world of AI. You know, like, and this is just the basis for what I'm going to talk about, but you look at the car manufacturer, it's going to protect its people. The reason that the person in the car, the reason to sell more cars, is that a reason to save a life? Is so that company can make more money? Does some government body make the decision? But at the end of the day, it's a person deciding ahead of time someone's going to die, or programming an algorithm to generally think in that way. Okay, and that brings us to our next segment. Just keeping that as the basis, think about those dilemmas as I talk about these next 2 segments. So what we're really talking about is law enforcement or military using drones in the public space. Right now, 1,400 police departments deploy drones as part of their force. Now, some of those are AI controlled or autonomous, and other ones are, manually controlled by police, and, ambulances use them. I've heard of situations where they deliver defibrillators, they get to heart attack victims first, things like that. They're sort of the good thing. Now, I came across a company called Axon, which it even sounds like an evil AI company. And then I found a photo of something that I've been thinking about. What if you had drones on the top of police cars or in the trunk of police cars. You just got to push a button and they automatically deploy, right? Think of it, so this Axon company makes these drones. They attach to the top of police cars. I don't know the exact situation because I'm sort of future thinking of this. So you have AI technology called OpenVINO by Intel that I've mentioned in a previous episode when I was talking about how do stadiums recognize people that shouldn't be there, get security to go. It's because they program in facial recognition and stuff. But OpenVINO can be programmed for a lot of different things. In this case, it could watch millions of hours of footage, of body cam footage, different YouTube videos of people, robbing people or whatever, traffic stops and all that stuff. And it could get a really good idea of when a drone needs to be deployed. And let's say a police officer does a traffic stop. That drone automatically deploys and watches it. Because OpenVINO technology has watched millions of hours, it can see body language of when a police officer might be getting in trouble because that person's getting agitated, or maybe it recognizes that person because it's seen it in the millions of hours, and it can alert that police officer, hey, you might be in some trouble, approach it this way. Another one is maybe it has nothing to do even with that traffic stop. Maybe police officers driving along, there's the need for a drone 5 streets over because it knows it automatically, without being prompted, deploys itself to that situation, then returns to the car, right? Like obviously it's going to be without a drone, but maybe if that police officer needs a drone, another drone comes and helps out, things like that. One really cool application of this I thought of, and this is a issue I've been thinking for years, how do you solve this problem? Motorcycles take off at high rates of speed. The problem is police have been told do not pursue. So you get some motorcycle riders that are not good people, they will be like, good, no repercussions, I can never be chased, so they'll just keep doing it. And that obviously puts a level of danger on people. Well, in this case, a drone could just follow that motorcycle until that motorcycle runs out of fuel. If that drone is running out of battery, another drone and a network of drones could sort of take over that situation. Now, as more and more police drones are taking over, are being deployed, these are the things you got to think of, what the good that can sort of come from that. Those are the good. Now, what I want to talk to you now is a possible future that doesn't seem too far away, as I'll show you here.
It can't be bargained with. It can't be reasoned with. It doesn't feel pity or remorse or fear. And it absolutely will not stop, ever, until you are dead.
And before I go into my last part, where it could be a little bit less positive, I just want to talk to you about subscribing to my channel. Now, I want to thank the people really from the bottom of my heart. I created this channel because I wanted to interact with a community. I wanted to have people that dig what I'm saying, so to follow along, subscribe, and I really appreciate you. Now, if you do subscribe, it helps me get closer to that monetization goal where I can take that money, reinvest it in the channel. I can actually purchase AI tools instead of just always using the free versions, and I can just create better content that way. The other thing I want to talk remember what I prompted with Tony Stark's question. A few years from now, are we going to see an issue where drones are policing the sky and protecting us from aliens and covering the sky and all that stuff? As we go into the future, and it looks like not too far, and you can have a look at this article here by the Defense One. Now, they're talking about in the future as early as 2025, which is next year, or 5 years ago, depending on when you're watching this video. Military drones are now used to patrol the sky, and in our pursuit of safety, you could see where politicians or the media might create a narrative where that's a good thing. What's stopping it now, and as you can see in that article, or you might want to read that article on your own, is some legislation that says like military vehicles cannot monitor or engage with civilians. Basically, these are things we sort of know in American and Western kind of countries. And in Australia during COVID, there was some real moral implications, and there was a lot of pushback from using the military to police the streets to see if make sure people were staying home and wearing masks and all that stuff, etc., etc. But it sort of happened in some situations, but it was sort of pushed back in others. Yeah, you could see a situation where that could sort of happen. Now, back a few years ago, there was legislation in the US that was put forward that says no Chinese components can be used for drones monitoring things in America. It's basically what it came down to. You can look it up. And the reason that being is you could see some robot drone vacuum cleaners that had cameras put into them made by Chinese manufacturers, where the cameras actually were being used and stored in cloud situations and accessed in ways that the vacuum owners never authorized. So you can see that it can happen. In which case, no matter where they're manufactured, they're manufactured in the US, that ability for governments, for private sector, whoever makes those drones, to use that in that way exists. So imagine if you tweak it so the exact same drone, it's not a military drone anymore, it's a private one or law enforcement drone, the exact same drone. And then you start thinking about those trolley experiments or who programs the algorithm and how they're used and how the camera's used and loss of privacy. And then you go even further into the future, maybe you can start seeing a situation where the drones are used in a way that Tony Stark envisioned and loved, or a future where those same exact drones are used in a way that Captain America really feared. So I think we can sort of see what's possible now and looking into the future, and just have a really good think about it and read some of those books I was talking about earlier. But yeah, that's my episode. For me, it was a really interesting thought experiment, and I just want to thank you for tuning in and watching.